Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the Royals and Dane Cook. We end with our weekly feature, the comments of the week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 130. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we're going to have an episode out next week, and then we'll be off on August 20th. I'm still getting the hang of being back on a normal schedule.
I was really nervous last week when we were recording. I was like, we haven't done this in so long. I thought I'd forgotten how to do everything.
It was so much fun. It went really great, and editing was super easy. Like, knock wood, it'll be that way again today. We'll see.
Well, the rooster is going fucking crazy. It's going buck wild.
Okay.
It's been screaming all day. And when I came home from the grocery store, 2 chickens were in my front yard.
Maybe the rooster is dying or something. There's like drama.
No, he's just a drama queen. He really is. He likes to scream.
I'll never forget when I realized it was a rooster at your house. It wasn't like some weird wind or something. I was like, oh. Now I live off a kind of busy road, so sometimes you can hear it. I cut it a couple times from the last episode, but it's not too bad. So the big thing I did was I made moving into my house and ordering stuff and putting it together and everything, but I went axe throwing to like this indoor axe throwing place, and I hated it so much. So they told us we could throw them over our heads, like you put both your hands on it, and you throw it and it like spins a few times and it's supposed to hit a target. And it's in these little stalls that are separated with chicken wire. And I was doing it and I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking dangerous. And it was scarier than I thought. So I was like, no, I'm just going to take score.
Did they make you sign anything?
Oh yeah. And they gave us like this preliminary safety instructions, but it was just so fucking crazy. And everyone was getting into it. And then they gave us like daggers and small ones, and people were throwing like 3 or 4 in one hand at a time. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hate this.
I couldn't do that. No, I could throw like a hatchet.
It was a hatchet at first, yeah. Or like a axe.
I could do hatchet throwing, but not axe throwing, because axes, they're so unwieldy.
I have a stupid fucking question. What's the difference between a hatchet and an axe? I thought they were the same thing.
Hatchets are smaller and they're more lightweight, and what do I want to say? Like the proportions make more sense.
Okay, so it was axe throwing, and then there were little all metal things that we throw that were like daggers, and they were shaped like axes. I don't think those are hatchets. I think those are different. Yeah, it was messed up. Now I'm going to look up the difference between a hatchet and an axe. I always am looking up stuff. Like today you wrote the word grige for Megan's outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that a typo or is that a real thing?
Yeah, gray beige.
Yeah, and I looked it up. I was like, okay, I learned something new every day.
Well, nothing's going on with me. I've just been watching tennis, except today there's like this very small crack where like tiny little insects can kind of get into the basement. Mm-hmm. And this tiny baby lizard got in and the cat got him. Aww. Panther kitty, not Dexter. Dexter goes outside and kills birds and like baby bunnies.
He's a murderer.
He's a psychopath. And then Panther is like my little baby. I still think of him as a kitten, even though he's very grown up now. But he started playing with this little lizard, but he doesn't have like a kill instinct. So he just wanted to play with the lizard, and he just kept on putting the lizard in his mouth and then dropping him and swatting him and then doing it all over again. So I had to kill the fucking lizard. The cat looked at me like, oh, so we did that together.
Oh.
So, or like I taught him how to do it.
That's what the mom cat does, is teach him how to kill. I thought you were going to say he was going to look at you like, aw, you killed my toy.
Well, it was a little bit of that, but he was just amazed that I actually killed the lizard.
Oof. Yeah, you have to do it. It's the most humane thing, because it probably was all injured and everything.
Well, who knows? It's fine. It was a tiny little lizard, and he sucked.
When I was a little girl, I picked up a toad and I smushed it in my hands and then I showed it to my mom. I was like, look at this. My mom loves telling me that story. About how I smushed a toad and showed it to her.
I never killed anything like that. I never killed a toad. I mean, obviously, I killed a lot of fireflies in my day. But...
I never killed a firefly.
Not on purpose. Like, I would catch them and I would put them in a jar. And I would wonder why they died.
Because they had no air. I just thought you were smushing them to get the glow on you.
No.
All right, let's talk about the royals. So we heard that Prince Charles accepted £1 million from Osama bin Laden's half-brother from the bin Laden family. And that was in 2013. And you guys might remember that in June, we heard that Charles got 2.5 million pounds in cash, in like literal suitcases full of cash, around that same time, like between 2011 to 2015, from the former Qatari prime minister or something, a shady Qatari politician. And this is a pattern with him, accepting large sums of money from shady people who he then gives honors or grants, favors to. And it's not getting enough press.
Yeah, it's not. And the two major stories that have broken recently, the two that you mentioned, the accepting literal suitcases full of cash and accepting money from the bin Laden family, like those are the big, sexy, important stories that are very easy to follow. And yet it's all the same pattern that we've been hearing about for the past year of, Charles makes terrible decisions about who he's taking money from, and like that there is this very sleazy quid pro quo involved with his foundation and the Prince's Trust and all of the the side honors. Businesses. Yeah, the honors. Well, he's giving away honors like candy. All right, so for the bin Laden story, he tried to say that it was the charity accepting it. It wasn't him, even though he met with the bin Laden family personally. And he brokered the deal, the charitable donation.
And his justification was that it would be rude to turn down the money.
When he was the one going into the meeting saying, "Can you give me money?"
That's outrageous. It's ridiculous. And you were reporting that it's not like there's going to be a criminal bribery investigation. Of course there should be. This is the future monarch.
Exactly.
Taking money from questionable sources.
Even the worst Republican could not get away with accepting $1 million from the bin Laden family. They just couldn't.
In cash. No, because they attacked our country.
British citizens died on 9/11 too.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda attacked Great Britain too.
Subway.
Yeah.
When was that? In July or something?
It was July 2005.
Oh, okay. So last week we knew about this story, but we didn't talk about it because it's not ad friendly in the least, and it's probably total made up bullshit, but the hashtag Prince of Pegging was trending, and you guys can Google that at your own peril if you don't know what it means. And
you and I had to have a conversation about what we would write and what we could say, what comments we would let through.
We did, and we chose for a while not to let any comments through on it because it's a liability for us, and lawyers are expensive. So Prince William has threatened legal outlets who ran stories about Rose Hanbury. Not us. We're so low level.
But we've covered the media outlets who have said we've gotten letters from Prince William. The Daily Beast has talked about it. I think the Financial Times has talked about it. Not very many British outlets, but William has sent out lawyers and letters and threats.
And we've received threats for our stories on other British high-profile people, including comments about them. So, I mean, it's kind of a stretch to think they'll target us, but I don't want to pay the money to get that to go away.
Yeah.
So
we don't want to fuck around and find out.
Yeah. And plus, it's not ad-friendly at all. Like, you run those stories and the ads go down. So, just leave it alone, especially because it originated in Dumois, and it's probably completely BS. But other blogs ran it, and so we eventually linked their coverage. So Lainey and Just Jared ran it, and if you still don't know what we're talking about, we'll put links in the post to those.
Yeah, and the Dumois story was a blind item. It wasn't saying, like, this is for sure Prince William. It was done as a pretty obvious blind item, and everyone knew who the blind item was suggesting. But what I find interesting is beyond the Prince of Pegging hashtag is that the blind item suggested that the blind item prince is already done with his former mistress and he's already moved on to someone new. Like, that's been the rumor going around for months now, which is that he and Rose aren't actually fucking with each other right now and that there's someone London based.
Oh, I remember hearing about the London-based girlfriend.
Yeah. And I think that might explain why Kate and the children are moving to Windsor, and it sounds like William is going to be staying in London as well. It just feels like he has different interests in different places, and Kate and the kids are going to go off to Windsor.
So we should talk about that next. We had that scheduled for a little bit later in our Royals talk, but William and Kate, they went to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham this week with Princess Charlotte, and it really seems like they're living apart because they came separately. William and Charlotte took a helicopter there, and Kate took the train.
Yeah, that is, if you believe that completely random story about some eyewitness who says that Kate was talking to his child. I don't know. That was such a weird story, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that she took the train to Birmingham. And we know for a fact that William piloted the helicopter to Birmingham with Charlotte. And they did something similar at Wimbledon where William arrived separately and Kate arrived with George. The way George and William greeted each other, it was like they hadn't seen each other in a while.
It's weird. So it does seem like they're living apart. And Kate wasn't wearing her engagement ring, which, you know, it's time she removed that giant thing for public appearances, but it still seems calculated.
Yeah. And some people were saying that she took off the ring just to create a different headline from the Prince of Pegging story.
Do you think they were aware of that much? I mean, they probably are because it was trending on Twitter.
Yeah, I think they were aware.
Do you think that they wondered whether they should address it or not?
I think that was their way of addressing it.
It's just doing stuff.
Yeah, just showing up at the Commonwealth Games and Kate taking off her engagement ring and, you know, just creating a different
narrative,
a different story. And, you know, of course, we are talking about the fact that they seem like they're separated, so.
Yeah. So Kate is on the cover of People magazine this week, and it's the regular People magazine. It's not the Royals edition. And it's some, you know, ridiculous story about how she's ready to be queen. She's learned so much from Queen Elizabeth. And like with all these stories about them, they completely erase the fact that Charles is next. Yeah. And that he has to die for her to be queen.
Yeah, and what's also weird about the People story, it's a cover story. There's no new information in there. And that it's all about Kate and how only Kate is ready to be queen. It's nothing really about William and how he's preparing to be king.
Very bizarre.
Yeah, I always find that really weird. But I guess for people's readership, Kate sells more than William. That's always been the case.
Like, they had that whole interview with William. It was about his environmental, in quotes, work. But they barely hyped that because they knew he wouldn't sell.
Yeah, they had to do a second cover that week. William doesn't sell. I don't think he sells in the UK either.
No.
Not the way Kate and Meghan and Harry do.
Exactly. Because he's so angry and boring.
And incandescent, yeah.
The pegging story is the most interesting thing about him. I'm like, good for him. If that's true, good for him, right? Okay, cool. There's something interesting about the dude, you know? No shame.
Yeah, and as everyone pointed out, the idea that William might have, like, a kink is not what we're making fun of. Like, we're making fun of the guy because everyone knows that he was pushing stories about Meghan to hide his alleged affair with Rose Hanbury.
Yeah.
And we were waiting to see if the other shoe would drop and he would start doing that again to get the pegging story muted in some way.
Yeah.
Are we going to see another round of Meghan is so terrible because she made all the white women in Britain cry?
Something like that, yeah. So there's a new documentary coming to HBO. It's called The Princess. So it's about Princess Diana, and it's just archival footage of her and of the commentary about her when she was alive. So this is coming on the heels of the decision by the BBC never to, again, air footage from her Bashir interview, her Panorama interview. This was after pressure from Prince William and the royals. Plus, they had that Dyson investigation last year in May. Like, I was confused because I thought after that they agreed never to air it, but I guess this is new.
Yeah, it's new, and I don't understand why it's happening a year later either. That has confused me.
Yeah.
So the Dyson investigation ended in May 2021. After the Dyson investigation ended, a few of the people on the periphery of the story, like Tiggy Legwork, she sued the BBC because Martin Bashir had told Diana a bunch of bullshit about Tiggy, about how she had an abortion and she had an affair with Charles.
She was a royal nanny.
Yeah, she was the royal nanny to Harry and William. So she sued the BBC and they settled with her, and she got an undisclosed sum, but it was supposedly pretty large. And I think after the lawsuits and after the BBC had to settle with a bunch of people, and the Earl of Spencer and Prince William were exerting so much pressure on the BBC, I think that's why they decided last week or the week before, okay, we're just never going to air the Panorama interview ever again.
So now there's this real discussion about William in particular trying to muzzle his late mother. And
it's insane.
Yeah. And the statements he made after the Dyson investigation, the brief video interview he did, was that the interview contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia, and isolation in the last years of her life. And he really is making it seem like these weren't her words. So her biographer, Andrew Morton, went on the record to say what Diana said to Bashir is what she was saying to all her friends at the time.
Right. And that's a distinction that even the Dyson investigation made, which is that Bashir did some despicable things, manipulative things to get the interview. But Bashir did not put words in Diana's mouth. Diana knew what she wanted to say, and she was going to say it to someone. And Bashir was the candidate that she chose because obviously he was manipulating her and deceiving her. But that's as far as it went. She wanted to say all of that shit. And the Dyson investigation said she was going to speak to someone. If not Bashir, it was going to be someone else.
So in Omid Scobie's column this week said the same thing, that William is trying to muzzle his late mother and that the royal family still has all the same issues that Diana brought up in that interview.
Right. And so right after the Panorama interview, like Charles, who is tone deaf about most things, but Charles understood how fucking bad that interview was for him. Yeah. And how Diana had effectively kneecapped his future kingdom, his future reign as king. And so he has been advocating for the interview to be buried in some way. And so the Dyson investigation was a huge gift to him because finally he and William could be aligned in something, and William could take the public hit for wanting the Panorama interview buried.
Yes.
And William has just blundered out there in public saying all this bullshit about how the interview ruined his parents' relationship. It did not.
No. His dad ruined his... Yeah. Well, it was ruined before.
And you could say that Diana was paranoid, but she had every reason to be paranoid. They really were spying on her. They really were working against her. The establishment did not want her around.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about Dane Cook. So Dane Cook is 50. He's a comedian, and I only know him from like this movie he was in the early 2000s with Jessica Simpson, and that he's a joke stealer, and he's not funny.
He was very popular like 20 years ago, basically.
Yeah. And he just got engaged to a 23-year-old named Kelsey Taylor. I guess she's a Pilates instructor, and he's been with her for 5 years. By his own admission, so do the math. And now that they're engaged, people are digging into his social media, and he mentioned they were friends first, and he met her at game night. And there's a picture of her at one of his game nights at his house from when she was 17. So he met her before she was 18.
Right. And we've covered their relationship over the years. And I remember distinctly like doing the math of, oh, he's dating a 19-year-old and they've known each other, quote unquote, for years now. And they were friends first. I was like, oh, right. He started a friendship with a 16-year-old girl, and then he waited until the very minute she turned 18 before they started dating. Like, he talked about how they were friends first. And this was when she was 19. And then we only started dating in the past year. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's creepy. And he was grooming her.
The only good thing I'll say about any of it is that it looks like she has her own job. And, like, it looks like she has her own, like, friend group, maybe. And that she has her own thing going on. So it's not like she's just around him 24/7 to be his girlfriend. Like, I think she has a life outside of him.
Yeah.
I hope she does.
So we talked about this on Zoom, and this is Tanisha, Amira, and Lisa.
You see the Dane Cook story? I didn't realize they were still together because I remember when he first started dating her, and I was like, what the hell? Because he said she was 18, which I question if she was actually 18 when they started dating. I don't think she was.
Because they met when she was 17.
Yep. This is what he said. They were friends before they got together. What are you talking about, sir?
She a teenager, bro. You in your 40s. Like,
when they said he was engaged to his longtime girlfriend, I'm like, is this the 18-year-old? And yes, it was. That poor girl.
The memes have been very funny, but it is sad. Just bad.
She's going to waste her youth on that weird plastic surgery victim. Like, he looks terrible. I don't know what the hell he did to his face.
So yeah, he's 50 and she's like 23. So they have a 27-year age gap. It's just creepy. Yeah. And he does look older than he is because of what he's done to his face.
It's really weird. It is.
Yeah.
It's more than Botox, too. It's not just, oh, he's overdoing the injectables. He's done something else to his face.
Yeah. Well, he's got the face he deserves.
That's me.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on the post about Donald Trump burying Ivana on his golf course in New Jersey to get the tax break for a cemetery. It was such a disturbing story. So Tart Citron, I'm butchering her name, wrote, "There is no way Ivana Trump, a New York socialite, would want to be buried at her second ex-husband's business premises in New Jersey. No way. This stinks. I too hope she haunts them all." Like, I can't believe that story. I thought I had seen the extent of the Trump family's depravity, but I have not. You know?
They really just tossed her in the ground, threw some dirt on her, and, like, just kept on golfing on top of her.
Oh, God. I'm sure they picked a nice out-of-the-way side spot so it wouldn't mess up the green. But, yeah, it's disturbing.
It's really bad. And I just can't believe that they aren't gonna, like, build a tomb or, you know, some sort of special place. I guess they don't want to ruin the golf course.
It's shady. The whole thing is very shady. It's so super shady.
Well, let's end on a nice note. My comment of the week is from the Voting Works Kansas Voters Protect Their State's Abortion Rights post. And I just picked a nice one. Dina wrote, "Fuck yeah, Kansas." All the comments in that thread were amazing. We had a bunch of commenters from Kansas talking about how they went out and got to vote to uphold abortion rights in their state. And everyone thinks that Kansas is this super, like, deep red state. But no, like, people really felt strongly about abortion rights and they really wanted to protect the women there. Anyway, I loved all those comments. And it was great to see, like, a bunch of commenters from Kansas talking about all the shady shit that's going on in their state, and yet all of them went out and they got out the vote so brilliantly. I mean, it's August. No one is prepared to vote for abortion rights in August, and yet everyone did.
I know everybody who's listening to us is going to vote in the midterm elections. Just, you know, get your friends and family to vote too. It's a big deal. Oh my gosh. There's so much at stake.
And I mean, if you're listening in Virginia, like, fucking Glenn Youngkin is such a piece of shit. And, like, so make sure that we keep as many Democrats in office in the state government as possible.
It's scary.
Racist trash bag.
Oh, he's awful. All right, well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.